Hey, what's up guys? This is Adi from ShastryNation, and today we're going to be talking about biomolecules. So biomolecules are basically the stuff that makes up us, or other living things, the animals you see, the plants you see, anything, really. Okay, so let's talk about what makes something organic matter. So what makes something organic? Okay, so we'll talk about this. Okay, so there's two main reasons why things would be considered organic, and one of the criteria, I guess is that it has to come from something organic, or from some organism. Has to come from an organism. Okay, so the second criteria, I guess, for something to be organic, is that it has to be made of carbon, or it has to have carbon. Has to have carbon. Okay, so let's talk about the most basic structure, organic structure, that we know of. So the most basic structure would be the hydrocarbon. So what the hydrocarbon basically is a 4 hydrogen and 1 carbon thing. And so, if you don't know already, these are called covalent bonds. These are called covalent bonds. So what these do basically is that these lines show that these two atoms, this one and this one, are sharing these electrons, and so that each of them get 2 electrons. So if you look at your periodic table, you'll see that hydrogen would be happy with this because all it needs is 2 electrons. And carbon would be happy because it gets not 2, 4, 6, and 8. So carbon is happy because it gets its 8 electrons. 8 electrons. And so what we call this structure, like I've already said, it is called a hydrocarbon. Hydrocarbon. Okay, so what really this structure is it is a molecule called methane, which is found in gas and other things like that. Okay, so let's talk about what defines a biomolecule. What is a, well, let's not what is a biomolecule, because we just talked about that, but what makes a biomolecule, or how do biomolecules work? How do biomolecules work? And so we'll answer that question right now. Oh, I don't need to write it down. Okay. So basically a biomolecule is essentially a monomer, a bunch of monomers that make up, so a bunch of these, so we'll just go ahead and try to see if I can find the tool to, yeah, there it is. Right, so we'll go ahead and copy this. Oh. Actually, I don't know how to copy this. Oh well. I haven't learned this software yet. So, okay. But basically what it is that you have a bunch of monomers. I'll just write a bunch of, okay. So a bunch of monomers. And these all lead to one big polymer. Oh, I wanted a different color. Okay. So one big polymer. Yay! So let's talk about so there are really 4 main biomolecules. You know, there are there are the proteins, which are in like, so we have proteins which are in like, that make up enzymes that basically govern everything, that are all the reactions that happen in our bodies. And then we have our nucleic acids that are used in stuff like DNA and RNA and basically govern the genetic side of our bodies. And then we have carbohydrates. Oh, I should get a different color. Okay, 1 second. There you go. So then we have carbohydrates, which is basically used to store energy, stuff like that, and then we have, the last but not least, we have lipids. Oh well, I should have changed color, but oh well. So we have these 4 biomolecules. Now let's go ahead and talk about each of these. Okay, so I'm gonna make it's gonna be like a grid. I'm gonna have a grid. It's gonna have like monomers, polymers, and so we'll talk about more in depth on what each of these do, because there is a lot to talk about in each of the amongst each of these, and what they do, because they do a lot. But for right now, we'll just talk about the very basics of how these molecules work, how they're made, how they're disassociated, and stuff like that. Okay, so let's talk about the protein. So first we have the protein. And the protein is really made up of amino acids. I'm sure you've heard of amino acids. Oh, should change the color. So I'm sure you've heard about amino acids at least once or twice in your life. They are very common. So these AA means amino acid. So that's what that is. Okay, and so you have these amino acids, and so there are really 20 types of amino acids. 20 types of amino acids, and the differences in all of these will be what determines what type of protein it is. Okay, so then what are the polymer, you might ask? So a bunch of these amino acids make up this polymer called a polypeptide chain. Peptide chain. And because this is a polymer because it has the word poly in front of it. And so anything that has more than that shows that it has more than one thing in the name is really considered to be a polymer. So this one obviously has polymer, and you'll see the trend as we go along this list, and you'll figure out that everything that is considered to be a polymer or made up of more than one monomer has that in the name, and you can figure it out. Okay, so now let's talk about the I'm gonna get like a good color. Yeah, this is it. Okay. So so now let's talk about the nucleic acids. So as I've already said, the nucleic acids really make up all the DNA, the RNA, and all the instructions for making proteins. So these really, if proteins control our lives, then these control the proteins, and so these are very, very important to us. Right. Okay, so the monomers of nucleic acids are nucleotides. Oh, I should write that. Okay. Nucleotides. Sorry for the bad handwriting. Alright, but you get the point. Alright, nucleotides. So, nucleotides are basically, you have your adenine, guanine, cytosine, and thymine, and sometimes uracil, only in RNA. And so these are basically your nucleotides, and the order of these determines what genes you have or what traits you have and stuff like that inside your DNA. or what type of proteins are made in the cell of your DNA. Sorry, in the DNA of your cell. Kind of flip those there. Okay, so now let's talk about the polymers that make up this. Well, there isn't really a polymer for this. It's just that when you add up a bunch of these nucleotides, you make things like RNA, DNA, RNA, and other things like that. And like I said again, these two things are very, very important to us. They really do govern everything that happens inside of our bodies. Okay. So now let's talk about the carbohydrate. Okay, so the carbohydrate is basically a substance that's used for storing energy. And like I said again, we're going to go way more in depth into all of these different monomers and polymers and stuff like that, and what their functions are in the cell or in our bodies. In the next video, if I were to talk about all of those, this video would be 2 hours long. So I'd much rather split it up into 2 or 3 videos. Okay, so carbohydrates. The monomer of carbohydrates are monosaccharides. Monosaccharides. And so basically these are just things like this. As you see here, the hydrocarbon, that's basically what a carbohydrate is. It's basically a chain of hydrogens attached to carbons, maybe attached to oxygens and other things like that, or other functional groups. And we'll talk about those in a couple minutes right now in this video. Okay, so the polymer of the monosaccharides, or a bunch of monosaccharides, make up a polysaccharide. Polysaccharide. And so as you can see, there's the poly here, and you know that means more than one, or like more than 3, such as in like polygon, for instance, that's more than 3 sides. Okay, so last but not least, we have the lipid. I'm gonna try to get a better color here. Okay, there it is. Okay, so lipids are kind of weird. They're not really they should really be in the category of carbohydrates, but they're so different that they are used in some other, they made their own category, basically. So lipids, what are they made of? They are made of fatty acids. Fatty acids, only some of them though. Some are made of fatty acids. The other ones are not. And the polymer is triglycerides. Triglycerides. Okay, so what are lipids used for? Lipids are basically like fats, you know, and they're used for long-term storage or for and they really carry a lot of energy. And so you might see this in, like, for example, like oils or butter, oil, stuff like that. Sorry, I don't think butter, but like oil and stuff like that. And that's what this really is. And so these are really long chains of hydrocarbons. So as you, it might be a very long chain of carbons, maybe like this. Let me go ahead and draw that again. Yeah, but maybe it's like this, you know, and it might be a very, very long chain of carbons being at every single end of this, you know, all around the whole thing, and that's really the reason why, for example, oil can't dissolve in water, is because it's so long. The molecule itself is so long that water can't deal with it. Okay, so now let's talk about how are these monomers put together to form these polymers. So when putting these monomers together, you go through this process called, let me get a new color, dehydration synthesis. Dehydration synthesis. And so what this basically is it is a process where, if you notice the name, there is dehydration. Dehydration. Well, what happens when you get dehydrated? That means you lose water, right? Or you have lost a lot of water. Well, that's exactly what happens here. There is a loss of water when you, or the water molecules, a bond happens and the water molecule leaves the bond, and that's a product of the reaction. And so I'll set up a basic equation here of 2 amino acids, and we shall see how this happens. Okay, so you have the the R1 group, and then you have a carboxyl group here, and I'll have a link below showing all of the functional groups that I learned in AP Biology, and hopefully that will help. You know, I know it helped me. So you have an amine group here, an amine group. This would be an amine group, and then you have the carboxyl group here. Okay, and so we'll talk about more about what these two do. Okay, so now let's draw another one. So we have to draw the other one with the amine group on the left side, because the carboxyl group only bonds with the amine group. Okay, so we have I'll have another color, I guess. Okay, so we have the N, okay, and then up from it comes the R1, and then we have carbon, a carboxyl group, a part of the carbon. We have a OH here, OH group, and then we have a hydrogen. We have 2 hydrogens branching off of this. And so this is the real reaction right now. Okay, and so I'll get a red color and describe how this actually works. And so what will happen is that you'll have, once these two bond, you'll have this molecule, this over here, get taken out by the reaction, and you'll have, if you notice, this makes up H. I'll have so you have H from here. You have 2 H's, and then you have an oxygen. And what does that make? Water. Water. Okay. And so again, like you see, this goes back to dehydration synthesis. Okay, so now let's talk about, are we running out of space? I don't think so. Okay. So now let's talk about what happens if they wanted to break up. Well, basically, it's the same thing, but in reverse. And so what it's called hydrolysis, and basically water is added back into the reaction, and you end up splitting it apart. Okay, again, like I said, we'll talk about, you might need to know all of these functional groups. It definitely does help, and I'll have a link below on all of the functional groups that you might need to know. And they're pretty easy. It's just basic memorization that's involved with learning these. Okay, so I guess that is all for today. If you enjoyed my video, please hit the subscribe button below. And if you want to see more videos like this, please subscribe. And on the next one, we'll talk about what each of these do. I'm super hyped. So on the next one video, like I said again, we're going to talk about each of these. And let's see, what else? Did you hit the subscribe button yet? I'm still waiting. Okay. So anyways, I guess I'll see you guys on the next one.